So Lille decided to hire a Canadian as their manager in Football Manager 2021. But only 2 videos were made, and 5 months later, nothing has happened. Until now. We're going to finish this season in this episode and go through the crazy season with Lille. This was where we left off, and we signed Strinic on a free, Juan Cruz Komar for 1.6 million, and Arezzo for 1.5, whose arrival will be in January. Nothing notable happened with the outgoings, and the lead up to the Europa League kept us undefeated despite a few disappointing draws. Michelin were defeated in our European debut, which was awesome. Ikone wanting a new contract and pissing him off by forgetting to give him a new contract was not awesome. That happened right before Leicester City and after defeating Lorient and drawing Brest. So, what did Ikone do in this match? Yeah, we lost 1-0. Then, I didn't play Football Manager for 5 months and decided to come back and finish the season. The first match coming up was against Nimes, which seemed simple enough, until this happened, then this, and this, and this. I have no idea what happened. We at least bounced back versus Rons, winning 4-2, helping me save face. However, Ikone came back to me, and because it's been 5 months since I last played the save, I forgot to offer him a new contract. At first, I was so confused. I broke a promise? What did I do? He's demanding to leave? Mate, I've been here for 2 seconds and you decide to wake up and choose violence? Yeah, that conversation went badly, Jorge.
12 seconds later.
Another damn meeting with this guy? All because I forgot to fax the paperwork? I had no idea if I could solve this. At first I thought, he's here until 2023, he's not gonna be going anywhere. Despite his desires, he was still willing to negotiate a contract for over 40k per week, which made me think the earlier conversations were just bluff. Sumari also signed a new contract, so I thought everything was fine. Unfortunately for Ikone, he did get an injury not long after in the Europa League, but when he came back, he quite possibly became the most annoying player I've dealt with since Football Manager 2016. Back then, I had one guy from Australia constantly not showing up to training, but we were in Poland, so whatever. I gave him everything he wanted, but the tears in his eyes after those broken promises were too much. I can understand him being mad, but despite all the good I did, he continued to train awfully, usually a low 6 or a high 5. I constantly told him off, but that did nothing. He played like hot garbage as well, never getting above a 7 rating, and usually getting a low 6, whether starting or off the bench. And it's not like he's a crap player. Look at his attributes and look at his stats before all this controversy happened. Now, throughout the season, I was tempted to send him to the second team. I eventually did, as I'd rather give minutes to players who actually cared, like Lahaji. For the youth team, Ikone performed pretty well and actually scored a goal off the bench for me when injuries got bad and I was desperate. So I brought him back afterwards, and of course, he did jack all. His value has dropped throughout the season from £25 million to 17. So a player who would have been useful and potentially a huge sale in the future will likely not turn into anything at Lille. Now, for some reason, UEFA decided to schedule 3 Europa League fixtures in a space of a week. So I thought this was a good time to go through the competition as it didn't go well in the end. However, the 3 consecutive fixtures were fine. A draw versus Leicester, a victory over CSKA Moscow, and a draw versus Michelin due to a last-minute equalizer. That led to 5 points, but enough to go through to the knockout stages. There was one match left against CSKA Moscow, which we lost right after a big derby win versus Lens, but not a big deal. In the knockout stages, we faced Ludogorets, and I decided to rotate my side for these 2 fixtures. I mean, Ludogorets aren't loaded in my game. They can't be that good. Plus, we won the first leg 4-2 and seemed calm. But let me introduce you to Karnezes, a goalkeeper who decided to concede this. To make it 5-4 on aggregate, we would concede 1 more goal and were eliminated on away goals. Granted, my backline is inexperienced, and I probably made some tactical mistakes, but I would hope he wouldn't concede this. And the worst news of all, we still have him for 2 more seasons. The European dream was short-lived, and we wouldn't be getting any cup glory either as we were eliminated from the French Cup in the 11th round by Marseille. So the league was the only thing we could really focus on, and getting a Champions League spot would be huge. 2 big matches were up in the middle of December as we faced Monaco and Marseille back-to-back. Monaco outplayed us, so fair play to them, but Marseille didn't, and that was awesome. A clean sheet at Metz followed, but it wasn't a win, and we wouldn't get another win in the league until late January. Draws with Bordeaux and Montpellier weren't ideal, while we dropped a stinker at Rennes right after. Around the same time, Jose Font decided to sign a contract with Union Berlin, which annoyed me, but gave me more incentive to hand more playing time to Botman. Although quite inconsistent and slow, he's part of a huge victory over Lyon. We had a 2-goal lead in that match thanks to Jonathan David and Arezzo, who arrived in January and was a starter immediately. Mostly because Burak Yilmaz got injured. Anyways, the game was heading to the 90th minute and it seemed like it was all but over. But then, Lyon scored. Okay, that's fine. Botman lost his man, but everything is good. Then the 94th minute arrived, and for some reason, our whole team were up the pitch despite me being uncautious. Strinic was out of position, and Botman thinks it's a great idea to mark Dembele despite being offside, and it's 2-2. I was fuming. A great performance that would be remembered for years by Lille supporters, thrown out in 4 minutes. But then, in the 96th minute, we got a free kick. Granted, I'm still pissed at this point, but I try to keep my composure as Yazici strikes the ball. Goal! Yazici! January ended with a 2-0 victory over Saint Etienne, and we moved into an L from PSG despite taking an early lead. Granted, PSG did deserve it despite one of the goals being kind of dumb. Nice. Now up to this point, we really didn't have a great goal scorer. Burak was out of this world in the beginning, but he couldn't stay fit. This meant that Timothy Weah got more minutes up front. For the longest time, he was a top goal scorer for us in all competitions, although he probably was better at left wing. I had high hopes for Arezzo, who came in January. His debut wasn't bad with a goal in the French Cup against Nancy. He was also scoring against the big teams in France. Still, he literally turned 18 not too long ago. Expecting him to be our top goal scorer was a little silly. But this is Football Manager, and like for many Football Manager players out there, Arezzo started to shine. He would score 9 in the next 10 Ligue 1 matches, and while a long stretch was against sides we should be getting results against, we ended up getting those results for the most part. Arezzo was scoring goal after goal and becoming our top scorer. He was even getting closer to the top 3 in Ligue 1. While one of the goals was probably the funniest goals I've scored in Football Manager for a long time, some goals he scored were magnificent. After the great run of form, we unfortunately couldn't get a win over Monaco thanks to an early Ben Yedder goal. I thought we deserved more, but the Marseille game afterwards was more of a dagger. We were starting to build space between us and 4th place while potentially surpassing Marseille. Then Danson decided to become a baller in a space of 3 minutes and we walked away with a 2-1 loss. 2 VAR decisions went against us, but it's whatever. During this run, I decided to switch Botman for Jallo, who was another promising center back, but had more pace. Him and Komar did well in the roles, especially Komar, probably the second best 1.6 million I spent this season. Another thing to point out in this run is that we had a lot of close games. However, if you looked into it, we missed 3 penalties in 3 separate matches. Actually, our penalty stats were awful during the season. We missed so many that it was driving me insane. The club had by far the worst conversion rate at this point, and it didn't matter who was taking them. Nevertheless, Champions League was still in our hands. 4 games left, and Marseille would drop some points as they had a lot of matches played previously, including a French Cup victory over Lyon. While we got another Burak Yilmaz injury. In a 4-0 victory. Let's go! Arezzo scored a brace in a 2-1 victory over Marseille, while Arezzo would score again in a 2-0 victory over Rennes. At this point, we were in second, and a good result against Nice would give us the award for the best team in Ligue 1. If PSG didn't exist. With goals from Jonathan David and of course Arezzo, we won 2-1 and concluded a solid season with Lille. Throughout the second half of the season, I played Yazici as the attacking midfield in the shadow striker role, while rotating Jonathan David and Timothy Weah as the left and side forwards. Bamba got a pretty bad injury, so he didn't play too much in the second half. On the right side, we also had an inside forward, and with Ikone pissing me off and Luis Arajo being a bit inconsistent, Lahaji played there as he was genuinely one of the best trainees on the team. He was crap in games, but the guy has so much potential and worked hard, so I felt like it was the right thing to do to play him a lot. Samari more often than not played as a ball-winning midfielder over Andre, while Renato Sanchez struggled in the role as a deep-lying playmaker. That changed to a box-to-box role, which proved to be better for the team. Selic remained as the right starting fullback, while Bradaric was given more opportunities as the left back due to uncertainties on Strinic's future. Mike was solid in goal and had fun playing through the season. Tactics-wise, we played a 4-2-3-1 flexible system, played attacking for the most part under a vertical tiki-taka with these instructions. Season summary, Arezzo ended up finishing with 18 goals in 21 Ligue 1 matches, only 4 behind Icardi, who had 10 more matches played on PSG. However, Komar won the player of the season, and deservedly so. While it wasn't a perfect season, it turned out pretty good by the end. Unfortunately, the board didn't give us too much to spend initially, but we have a few players we can sell. Now, what was my overall rating? I expect a B+, maybe even an A-. The game is really taking a piss, and not because of that rating, but because Ikone won the goal of the season. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.